you kind of just have to take the punches that life throws at you.
Yeah.
And get through them as best you can. And like, you can't just give up on something just because it's difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something in the same vein, right? You cannot plan for everything. Mm-hmm. You can have an idea of how it's going to pan out.
You can have a hope.
You can plan for the best case. You can plan for the worst case. And hopefully you land somewhere in the middle.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Creating Wealth Podcast, where I, Kyle, from Kyle Curtin Real Estate, interview local top dogs in the real estate investing, wealth building, and personal finance industries. Let's build together. What's up, guys? The guests on this week's episode of the podcast are just beginning their real estate investing journey with their first recent house hack and are an amazing inspiration to folks just learning about real estate investing and wanting to jump into their first property. Chris and Cassidy have gone from being college students to purchasing a 2-family home in Littleton, Mass, and moving from another state. This episode is super valuable for first-time home buyers and other folks that might be on the fence about getting into the game. In this episode, we get into some crucial topics including the cons to renting an apartment over the long term, the power of leveraging your first property into many more, rolling with the punches and embracing discomfort, and so much more. There is so much to take in from this episode, and I hope you enjoy. Let's jump right into the episode. What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 67 of the Creating Wealth Podcast. Today, we get the great pleasure of chatting with Chris Vanderloo and Cassidy Schultz, a few awesome first-time house hackers with a duplex in Littleton, Mass. What's going on, guys? What's new? How you doing?
Pretty good. We just got all of our boxes in here today and been unpacking them all day.
Yep.
I don't know.
Literally today.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's quite the day though.
Yes. Very stressful day.
Yeah.
Very stressful weekend.
You guys just moved over from New York this weekend, right?
Yeah, we moved on Saturday, and because of the snowstorm that didn't amount to anything, we were supposed to have the moving company come on Saturday, and they were like, oh, you know what, we're not coming until Monday. And they told us that after they packed everything, which was fine.
It was okay. It's not like my medicine was in the truck or anything.
Or my glasses.
We don't need it, right?
Okay, it's all here now. So
I don't need to see. He doesn't need to take medicine.
Okay. He doesn't need to be healthy. That's awesome. So to kind of go right into that, because people may be wondering what you moved into and why and where. So what kind of got you guys, into real estate initially? If you could kind of tell like a little bit of your backstory a little bit and like, your superhero story.
The origin story.
Yeah, sure. That's the one.
I think, I kind of dragged you into real estate, right? And I started with real estate by listening to the Biggerpockets, podcast and reading their stuff. And and I think I started listening to that kind of thing while I was in school, probably about 2 years in. And so by the time we were graduating this last spring, we had kind of figured out that picking up a multifamily property would be a smart first-time home buyer decision to make.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
How was it, Cassidy? Were you kind of like open-minded to it, like when Chris first brought it up, or how did that kind of go over?
I thought he was crazy. Like I think we had been dating for maybe like what, a year and a half when you first started
probably 2 years.
A year and a half or 2 years, and then he really started getting into it, and he was like, I want to eventually buy a multifamily. And I was like, because my dad had been an investor. He had multifamilies for several years, and I had heard several horror stories from him about, things going wrong.
Mhm.
So I was like, Chris, you might be a little insane. How are we going to buy a multifamily right out of college? Where are you going to get the money for this? Yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And then I eventually came around once we started looking, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, as it turns out, we kind of, well, Kyle, you remember,
Yes.
of course, but
oh, for those who don't know,
No, I'm just kidding.
Yep. And he did a fantastic job. And so, I mean, when we started the process, right, I remember we talked about this. We weren't sure that we could afford, anything really. I think it took us until we found, some low down payment options. So like in Massachusetts, for example, we went with the one mortgage, the Mass Housing Program loan, 3% down with, no private mortgage insurance. And that made, properties that were within this range, $500,000 to 700 or so, reasonably affordable, even for somebody right out of college. And really my only savings were, from co-ops and that kind of thing. And her only savings were from various jobs, and then
Yes.
Wadsworth, and
It's a really, some of those programs are really phenomenal. You guys actually showed me the MHP one for the first time. Like even
Yeah.
like people in Massachusetts, like, at meetups and stuff, like I'll, just kind of be talking about it. And like, even like investors from around this area, like that have been here for a long time, have never heard of it.
Oh, really?
And like, it's really crazy. Like, guys, it's, you'll have to read into it a little bit more because we're not loan officers, but
Yeah, right.
But like Chris was saying, it's 3% down conventional for single families and 2 families, and then 5% down for 3 families, and I believe they do 4 families as well. And like Chris said, like no PMI, like that's absolutely crazy. It's unreal. It is like just the first time home buyer program, and there are like a couple like criteria that you have to meet, but if you can meet the criteria, then it's a really, really crazy option, especially, if you're like right out of college or in college, or it's unbelievable.
Highway robbery.
Yes.
And it's cool that they more when you're qualifying for a mortgage, right, rental income can factor in as a form of income. So the estimated income for this property, in an area where rents are relatively high, but also property prices are high too, right? That factors on top of whatever your regular income is for you to afford something that on paper might look unreasonable for a person to purchase, but once it's rented out, no big deal,
Exactly. It's absolutely huge. And even, to your point, Chris, like if you were just looking to buy, like a traditional single family, like a forever home or a condo or something, like you're just going to get the amount that you're pre-qualified for, or pre-approved words, pre-approved for rather. But, as soon as you jump into like the multifamily territory, like even, a 2 family, a 3 family, or 4 family, like a percentage of those rents get factored into your pre-approval. So like in some cases, depending on, how like the property prices are looking and, kind of how you play your cards, like you could get like a 2, 3, 4 unit property and get, a heck of a lot more money to be able to work with from the bank, like towards your pre-approval, like because of that extra rent that's coming in. It's something that like a lot of people really don't know, and it's really unbelievable.
Yeah, and definitely instrumental in making this first purchase possible.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah. So, guys, I know it's pretty early to things, but what is your drive and kind of your vision for the long term?
Well, I guess I guess I'll answer that. I mean, real estate in my head is a vehicle towards building wealth, right? It's not something that I personally want to build a career out of. Really, I want it to be somewhere to put my money and have it grow into something sustainable. And when I'm talking about wealth, I mean just not needing to work if I don't want to, being able to have the freedom to pick and choose what I want to do, even if I'm not making income from what I'm choosing to do in the short term, that sort of thing. Be able to spend time with people I care about, like her.
Pepper? No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, Pepper.
Yeah, and my cat, of course. If I want to just take the day off and spend the day with my cat, it'd be lovely. But yeah, that's how I view real estate. I purchasing a multifamily like this was the first big step. I think purchasing other multifamilies will be a good step too. Those reasons, we're not interested really in flipping properties or anything short term. There's a great market for wholesaling and flipping and that sort of thing, but rental properties are one of the best, long-term sustainable ways to grow your wealth.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And even like, who knows, maybe like your strategy could change down the line. If you got like a couple properties under your belt and they're like, oh, like, I kind of need capital quickly, like, maybe meet a couple people or something like that. And now all of a sudden you want to do a flip and try and make, a decent amount of a return back to be able to use for a down payment for something else.
Right. Yeah. I think, as we move forward with this property, I mean, Cassidy and I have learned a heck of a lot just trying to manage, getting the previous tenants out and renting this out to new tenants and taking photos of the new place and preparing it, to turn around.
Yeah.
I mean, well, talk about how much work we put into the downstairs.
Oh my God. So we worked on the downstairs for probably like a month-ish.
Yeah, on and off through the weekends.
Yeah, we came down every single weekend for a month straight, mostly with my parents because my dad is a contractor, so we did a lot of stuff on the bottom unit.
Yeah. And it looks gorgeous, and like I mean,
saw the listing photos. I mean, ooh.
Yeah, and those were taken with an iPhone. So
shout out to Apple. No, I'm just kidding.
Shout out to Apple and their new advertisement.
I mean, like, I feel like there was one thing that was kind of cool that you guys were able to do, like the tenant that was in there before, that ended up leaving, for other reasons, like to be able to go in, get the rest of the stuff out of there and like just open up the unit altogether. Do a little bit of like a turnaround and like update things and like work on it like you guys did, and then be able to increase that rent, a pretty decent amount, for the next tenant coming in. And would you guys mind kind of talking about that, like your experience, for the first time, like turning over a unit and like, putting it up on and the amount of applications and stuff?
Oh yeah, it was pretty stressful, I would say. So we had to kind of pick and choose what to update downstairs because you can't really like go in all at once and do everything, and you have to keep in mind that it's a rental unit. It's not like this is your forever home. You can never make it perfect because there's always going to be a turnaround where tenants could damage something or whatever, and you don't want to put your heart and soul into it and just see it not kept up. So we took care of that stuff, and then we listed it. And
I was worried about the price that we were listing it at, but I mean, you remember how we decided that. I mean, we went to apartments.com and various sources to kind of identify what we thought it would rent at. And I mean that the previous tenants were at lower rents than we thought we could achieve. But I remember sharing my anxieties with you several times, and you seem pretty confident. And of course, it's rented. So
I tried to be very confident about the numbers just because I saw what other places were going for around here. So I thought, if these people can get X number, surely we can get Y, like easily. With all of the things that this house has, like we have a full backyard, big driveway, washer and dryer in unit. I had like no doubt that we would be able to get what we wanted for it. and we got quite a bit of activity, quite a few applications, and we had, I just lost my train of thought. Kyle, cut this out.
Applications.
Okay, listen, I don't.
How many like Section 8 app? We had a lot of Section 8 applicants. We had a lot of regular applicants with slightly lower income. We kind of, we set our what's the word I'm looking for? Our criteria. Yeah, we set our criteria pretty set in stone pretty early on. We wanted 3 times rent, we wanted the income to be 3 times rent.
Yeah.
We wanted
$700 credit score.
Yeah. And we saw other places in the area that were pricing their units like way out of what we thought was reasonable. And we could have probably listed it for 24 or
25
higher,
even, but we didn't want to do that because we didn't want to help people.
Yeah, there's that, but we also, we want to be able to pick and choose from the applicants, right? We wanted a good pool to choose from.
Exactly.
And pricing it at that, we probably got like 11 applicants in the first week.
No,
something like that.
I think we got 15. Probably.
Was that in the first week?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So
and
15
this is during winter too, when it's really slow.
True. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And so 15 out of those 15, how many met our criteria?
Probably half.
Yeah.
Or so.
Well, no, probably a little bit less. I think we had like 5 or so that we were kind of looking at.
40 to 50%.
Yeah. But we learned a lot through all that too, setting up our systems and everything, knowing who's taking on each responsibility, trying not to step on each other's toes. Yeah. But it worked out, right? We got and we accepted somebody at first too, and they ended up not accepting us,
right?
And we weren't that happy with the turnaround time, so I think we decided from then on to be a little bit more stringent about how long people have to accept and sign a lease. And what else? Something else about timing too. I was just thinking.
Kyle, you're gonna have to cut so much out of this.
No, it's okay. This is the real stuff. This is the genuine stuff. I like to keep this stuff.
Of course.
You're gonna embarrass me.
No, honestly, there's I think there's what's it called? Like when it came to, like that first tenant that came on, that you guys accepted not too long ago, I think like there's really important lessons, that you guys might have like picked up from that, for the next time to kind of like implement as part of your process. So like you said, like judging the timelines and kind of figuring out like, hey, like, you only have until like X date, like X weeks or whatever it is from now to be able to do this. So then next time, like you won't have that same problem and you could just keep like, using the same process over and over and over again, with a pretty low, like tuition cost, I guess you could say.
Yeah. We had a family that we really liked. They like came and saw the unit. We met them. We clicked with them really well. And we told them, okay, so get your application in. They never applied. And we kind of sat around waiting for them to apply because we really liked them. We really wanted to rent to them. And we had all these other applications sitting around and we were like, all right, let's just give them until X date. And if they don't apply, then we move on. Yeah. And so we moved on and then we accepted another couple and they ended up not accepting us because they went with a place that was closer to where they worked. And then we ended up with the tenants that we have right now, who we really like a lot. So that's good.
Yeah. And that's the benefit of pricing it right and having options too, right? Because if we had just the one couple or the family that came by to see the unit and we were waiting on their application, we might not have had other options right besides them if we had priced it too high, and they might have still fallen out, or somebody else might have picked another unit. And with those kinds of things, right, when you're renting, let's say that a rent that's too high was $2,400 and a rent that's just right is $2,200, right? If you have a unit that's on the market for too long, right, for each month you're losing $2,200, right? How much is that $200 difference going to make up, in the time that you have the tenant, versus how long you had to wait to get that tenant in?
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. I think that's a really huge point too. Like, if you tried to, put the unit up for like a much higher amount, like on the spectrum, like a much higher amount of the range, and then like you might be able to rent it for that. But I totally agree. Like, you might have a lot less of a tenant selection to be able to pick from. But if you go too low and then like way too many people are flooding in, like now you got, bit off a little bit more than you could chew, Yeah. So I think like the way you did it was absolutely awesome. I feel like there's a lot for people to learn from that, just kind of hitting that right spot. And
it was kind of something that you couldn't really figure out how to handle properly until you actually went through with it once.
Yeah.
Stressful, but now we know what to do. Next time we need to get a tenant in.
I mean, we were nervous as hell because place, like, how do you do it the right way?
I
don't know.
Hey, it's new, it's growth.
We're still making our mistakes too, obviously, with how we handle things, but the best we can do is just make it right the next time. So it's all a learning experience. I mean, nobody's born an expert in anything.
Exactly. Even like as like first time investors, you know what I mean, like that's gonna happen a lot, is like figuring out. The way I kind of look at it is kind of like a baseline. So like if you're trying something new for the first time, or like you just bought your first house, or like like getting in like your first tenant, or whatever the situation is, like as soon as you try it the first time, I mean, things might not go 100% as planned, or like they might go really well, they might go absolutely horrible and in flames, but like as long as you can learn from that experience, like I feel like you kind of created that like baseline, if you will. So now like the next time that you can do it, now you have something to keep building on, and then it compounds, and like you have your starting point already done. Like now it's just how to optimize that starting point that you had, and just make it, kind of where you see the vision for it.
I have a feeling that the next property is going to be much easier than this one. I mean, I've heard lots of real estate professionals say that, but you don't really know how difficult it is to manage all of this until you get into the weeds of it.
And it didn't help that every milestone on this house was like during a holiday or a vacation. Like we saw this house for the first time at the beginning of family vacation, put in the offer during family vacation, did the inspection on our way back from family vacation. We closed right after Labor Day, I believe. We got our tent, like we picked our tenants over Thanksgiving.
Sending an escrow wire transfer in the back of a car,
driving back from Mount Washington
in an area where I had very little signal, but I knew that I needed to get it out by like the next day. But one heck of a time, I'll tell you. But
you gotta do what you gotta do.
Right. And now I know how to do wire transfers the right way. I had to learn very quickly just to have a bank account that does wire transfers. Wells Fargo. No, that's a bank. Yeah, it was Western Union. I was having issues with Western Union.
We got it. Forget about that Wells Fargo slander. I retract my statement.
They're coming after you now. You know that, right?
Don't take my money.
Get a credit card for them and they'll leave you alone.
Are they a credit card company?
Oh, they're a bank. They probably offer credit cards.
Well, I sold my soul to Ally, so.
Just find a Wells Fargo pen and just use that one pen for the rest of your life, and you'll be all set.
All right.
Come on, guys.
That'll make me even.
Yes. No, yeah, I mean, it was definitely like a really, really crazy process. And like you said, like, being on vacation and like doing all these different steps and everything. And like it was awesome. It was
It was awesome for you because you got the commission.
No. I think it was stressful for all three of us.
Yeah. You had a lot to deal with on your side too. I know that.
Hey, I mean, there was lots of challenges, lots of growth for I think for all three of us, you know what I mean?
For both of us. Yeah.
All
of us. Yeah, right.
For the thrice of us.
Not just right.
Correct.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's your team is so important too, right?
Oh my God, yeah.
So I'll admit that sometimes I'm a little bit I'm very trusting of people, generally speaking, and sometimes that can bite me in the tail. In one case, it didn't, right? Because I found John on Biggerpockets, and then Candor Realty, and then I found Kyle, and that was great. That process went swimmingly. Communication is very important with people on your team, so it's important that you vet people a little bit first and try to get an understanding of their communication style, and know that if something feels off to you, you can always back out. You can always go with somebody else. If somebody's not communicating well with you, that can mean the difference between having a property and not having a property. It can mean the difference between a lot of things. And getting a property is a huge deal, as we all know, because it can build your wealth, or you could lose everything on a terrible house.
A lemon.
You don't know. Yeah. Oh, a lemon.
A lemon house.
Sure.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, man. Your team is definitely absolutely everything.
That was one of the best pieces of advice you gave us too, Kyle, was that you gotta like have your, did you call it like your own team?
Probably, yeah. There's
that I don't remember
something
the
like
exact
that.
names, but
it's, and like I feel like you don't really know until you're in the process. You know what I mean? So like even like you guys, like you had, like a couple things come up, like with the tenants, and there was like a plumbing issue. So now, like if you found like that plumber did a great job, like you might use him the next time and be like, oh, like, all right, now he's our go-to guy. Like, oh, give like Ryan a call.
Yeah, we have a guy for our oil company. We have a guy, his name is Chris, also, funny enough, but
nice name.
We love him. He's our guy. So
yeah. I mean, I talked to multiple oil companies. I talked to so many plumbers to fix this issue. Some of them were kind of, I don't know, blunt, I guess, and short, blunt, not brunt, blunt, like kind of short with me, and kind of like we're too busy, we can come out in the next whatever. And
then we had two different plumbers come out for this, and well, basically the backstory is the tenants didn't have hot water in the shower. So we were like, okay, maybe it's the mixing valve, because they had hot water everywhere else. And then a few days later, it turned into, okay, they don't have hot water anywhere and the water's brown. Anyway, to make a long story short, we had one plumber come out and he told us, oh, the water's fine, everything's fine. And he just didn't run the water long enough for it to get cold.
Yeah.
And then we had another plumber come out the next day and they didn't bring the right tools to fix it. So here we are sitting in New York. We can't really do anything about this.
Honestly, it's a good thing that they didn't fix it, because they were coming out to fix the mixing valve in the shower, which wasn't the problem in the first place.
Didn't end up being the problem.
It was the boiler itself.
Again, we talk about learning experience.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think our learning experience there, if there's any issue with the hot water, and it might be isolated to an area that puts out a large volume of water at a time, such as, for example, a shower. Maybe we check the water boiler first.
Maybe.
And then look at mixing valve and that kind of thing, if we can't isolate the issue there.
But then again, we're also young and stupid. Ha 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 ha. Kyle, I don't know if we told you this, but Chris, whoa.
That's okay.
There was just a sound. I think it was the radiators again.
I heard that. It might have been a ghost.
Right next to a cemetery.
Ooh.
Ooh, spooky.
The house is already haunted.
Ghosts.
We'll deal with it. What are you saying?
Chris's mom went to the hardware store the other day to buy
No, go on.
to buy paint for our bedroom, and she was talking to the guy at that was mixing our paint and whatever, and it's kind of a funny story, but we wanted a nice green color and we wanted matte finish, of course.
Yeah.
And his mom was like, oh, it's for my kids' room. And the guy was like, if it's a kid's room, you want eggshell because they're going to be writing on the walls. And Chris's mom was like, no. And the guy was like, oh, well, how old are they? And Chris's mom said 22. And he was like, oh, well, then they're not going to be writing on the walls, are they? And Chris's mom was like, no, it's their house. And the guy was like, what do you mean your son bought a house at 22? I'm in my 30s and I can't even get a mortgage.
This dude was like...
Yeah. And Chris's mom, to not make the guy feel bad, she said, they just give a mortgage to anyone these days.
This guy went from...
I love her so much.
This guy went from thinking Chris was a 5-year-old kid to a 22-year-old that bought a house. This guy's like, wait, what?
He's like, oh, hold on. Now, to be fair, I do know where my markers are.
Right
I might go draw on the walls anyway.
Hey, who's gonna stop you? The landlord?
It's my house. I don't know. But
Chris, if it makes you feel better, it is your house. It is your roof.
It is.
You can write on the walls if you would like to.
That's right.
Big lesson here, guys. I'm just kidding.
I mean, to his credit, though, it is really difficult to afford and purchase a house around here.
Oh yeah.
Unless it's a multifamily.
That's
so
the big asterisk.
Right. So most of the single families around here are all, at least like $600,000 and up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We found this property, which was a little under that because it's ancient. It's about 200 years old.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a diamond in the rough, really. But
I got super lucky.
Right. But so if you purchase a $500,000 to $600,000 property around here, your mortgage is going to end up being about $3,000 a month. Mm-hmm. So unless you make I don't know how much that is, like $9,000 a month. I'm running the numbers in my head here. Unless you make
it's a good amount of money. Yeah.
120, 130 a year, it's kind of out of reach, really. Yeah. Even if you do make that much, it might be a little bit out of reach.
And even then, for 600 or 700, you're probably not getting more than 2 bedrooms.
Yeah.
Maybe like 1,200, 1,500 square feet. No, I'm not very good at math. I'm sorry. Scratch that.
So if you get a multifamily, right, for a similar price as one of the single families, you get less space. But depending on how the rents work, and in this market, rents are quite high, and so the rents ended up being basically our entire mortgage is what the rents equated to. And so of course you still have taxes and all the variable expenses. Maintenance can go one direction or another direction. It depends everything on the house. Yeah, CapEx, roofing, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But I'd much rather have all the fixed expenses be taken care of by something else that's relatively fixed, and then just only have the variable expenses to deal with, right? That we can handle. And it makes this kind of property much more affordable while you're still gaining the same amount of equity in the property, month after month, and you're paying just significantly less to get that equity, right? I think every month that we're in here, we're probably making more in equity than we are paying out in maintenance and that sort of thing.
Of course. Yeah, and it's huge. Like, even like one thing that I feel like people might not talk about as much either is because like you guys were renters before, you know what I mean? So like, like firsthand,
until like 3 days ago.
We still are. We're technically still on our lease for our old apartment.
I was just gonna ask. Wait, did you did you just end the lease a couple of days ago?
Well, I mean, so the lease goes until the 31st.
Yeah.
And we're technically like still paying like those days prepaid, but we just moved out because I mean, that apartment was not very good. Not to slander them, but there was a lot of like mold and water.
The windows looked
damage
like prison windows. We were in like the
Yeah.
basement. The floor was concrete almost.
Yeah. So this is like a castle compared to that. And then
Yeah.
my previous apartment was very small, very busy road, very expensive for what it was.
Anyway, I think you were getting to a
Yeah,
point.
sorry, we just went off on a tangent about our
No,
crappy
no.
apartments.
No, I'm glad you said that because that totally adds to my point of like, even if a property isn't like, if you're looking for a house hack, right?
Mhm.
Even if it isn't like the most like cash flow savvy, like right away, like even if it can slice like the rent that you were paying before, like in half or like, 75% or like more than that, like if you only have to pay like, like a couple $100 or like $500 a month or something like that, instead of like 1,000, 11, 1,200 bucks a month, like that's still a win. Like down the road, like as an investment, like, yeah, totally. You know what I mean? But like, if you can even just cut that bill down a little bit, like that's still a win, because Chris, like you said, like you're still gaining that equity, hopefully the market's doing okay. You're getting some appreciation. The rent's coming in, from the other side or other 2-3 units, whatever. And then like the tax benefits as well. So like you're still getting paid like 4 ways and cutting, the bills that you had before, hopefully just, cutting that in half or more,
Yeah,
until like you might cash flow or whatever.
The way that we were thinking about it when we first started approaching this, right? You can do a house hack in like a crazy way, right? You could just stay in the living room and rent out every single bedroom in your place and buy a single family or a huge place.
I jokingly said to a bunch of my friends, like, you can rent out our closet space.
But is it a bad idea though?
Yeah, I mean, I miss them. I'll have them live with us,
not.
please.
So I mean, you could do it that way, right?
Yeah.
But what we were looking for really was we did want our own separate space, right?
Mhm.
We didn't want to really compromise on privacy and that kind of thing.
The things that we would not compromise on was like, this sounds really stupid, but it was like sunlight, washer and dryer in unit, more space than we had before.
Yep.
Doesn't smell like smoke.
Yeah, that's not. I don't think those are too many bad compromises.
Wow.
And so what we were looking for financially, right? I mean, it was a totally different market, right? So we were paying, I think, $1,200 in rent, but obviously we came here
11.
or 11. We came to Boston, well, Littleton, and this sort of area for work and that kind of thing. Rents are obviously higher here, right? Rents, we would probably be paying the equivalent of $2,000 a month or more.
Easily.
So we were looking for something, that would cost us between $1,200 and $2,000 a month, really, because when you're paying $1,200 a month in rent. Did I say 12,000 earlier?
I don't remember.
Damn, that was expensive.
$1,200 a month in rent.
12,000.
All of that money is going out the window. You're not getting anything back on that. It's just gone. But you get the living space, and that's it, right? If you're staying, let's say hypothetical, let's say you have to pay $1,500 a month instead to have a house hack, right? Where you have, maybe it's something like this, right? Maybe if it's like a $500,000 property and you end up paying $1,500 a month to live there and average, expenses. You're going to be making more money paying $1,500 a month with owning a property than you would, paying $1,200 a month for rent. One, because rents go up over time, mortgages don't. Two, I don't know, something else, but mostly that.
Yeah.
Right. So
no, I totally agree with you, Chris. And like the concept of like the longer that you have the property, the more the spread of like your expenses and like your mortgages and stuff is going to shrink. And, rents, like you said, typically go up. So that spread's just going to keep getting wider, the more that you own the property.
I don't think we've even talked about appreciation.
No.
I appreciate you.
Too.
Aw, you too, guys.
But no, I meant
guys, that's appreciation. No, and like I think that's something that's really important is like it depends on what side of the coin that you're on when it comes to your living space. Like if you're renting an apartment or something, like you said, like you have space that's yours, that's great, like it's your own kind of area, but the amount that you're paying gradually is probably going to go up over the same time, and like you're not getting equity, and like you're just like you said, like that money's you're just throwing it away. But if you're on the other side of that coin and you're able to buy like a house hack through one of these like low down payment kind of loans, then like you said, like you might pay a little bit more off the bat, but you could have like a whole ass house that's yours.
A whole ass house.
And
yep.
And like the rents might be not at market value when you buy it, like you might have to fix it up a little bit, whatever, but like this space is like it's all yours. It's probably going to be a significant amount more than what you got for like apartment space, just renting a place. And like I said a minute ago, over time, like rents are going to gradually go up, like people are going to move in, move out, and like eventually however you choose to do it, those rents are going to keep going up with like the area. And like I said, like your mortgage and stuff like that is just going to keep going down, and that spread's going to get bigger. So I feel like it's just kind of choosing like what side of the coin that you want to be on.
Yeah. Did you ever read Rich Dad Poor Dad? I assume a lot of
definitely.
Of course, right. It's generally, you haven't read it yet. I bought it for her and she hasn't read it.
Listen,
called out.
I read Bridgerton books.
Listen,
Listen,
that's not real estate. Who reads anything besides real estate books?
me.
Not me.
Clearly, you can tell I'm not the one that spearheaded this, but I'm along for the ride.
Yeah, right. I forget what I was even saying. Oh yeah. So I mean, owning an asset generally, right? By buying an asset with somebody else's money, is the best way to build wealth. It's proven, right? Businesses are built out of that. All real estate empires are built out of that.
A small loan of $1 million.
Yeah. I mean, because we own this asset now, right? We borrowed, however much it was, theoretically, right? If you buy a house that's $500,000 at time of purchase, you borrow $500,000 to buy it. If the house increases in value, well, the house is yours. You can sell it and pay off that loan at any point, right? Yeah. But a loan will still be for $500,000. So anything you gain there is just gravy.
Gravy?
Gravy. Yeah, it's the gravy on top.
What?
That's a term. I think it's a term. That's a term, right?
I've never heard.
It's gravy.
Yeah, that's just gravy.
A cherry on top?
You could say either. I think it means the same thing.
I've just never heard gravy.
I think I used it earlier.
No, you did not. I promise you didn't.
Oh boy.
We're derailing this conversation.
But yeah, no, I totally agree with you, Chris. You know what I mean? And like, even, if down the line, like if you wanted a bigger property and like you wanted to like 1031 exchange it into like, a 6-unit or something like that, and now all of a sudden, like, you have hopefully, all that profit and stuff from the first time, the experiences of, building your processes for like tenant screening, dealing with repairs, like how to find contractors, vet contractors, like all that's then, just gonna like loop over to the next deal. Yeah,
that's the hope. Or I mean, you can do HELOC loans on places, like if you're comfortable with that. That's another, just playing with the bank's money, right?
Exactly.
As much as you can play with the bank's money without, exposing yourself to too much risk, right? Is a good thing. So if I wanted to keep this property and I didn't have the money for a down payment on another one, I could take out a loan against this one and purchase the other one and pay both off over time, and then I have a 2-unit and a 6-unit. Even better.
Exactly.
More units.
Huzzah. And like the thing I love about that concept too is like you actually, like worked like hour for hour to be able to like, afford the down payment for like that first property. But then once you get the next one, it's probably going to get a heck of a lot easier to be able to, save up that second down payment. Because now it's not, just coming out of your pocket. Like that could be, like cash flow coming in or like equity that's being built up over time or whatever. Like now you have a couple other like smaller bank accounts, if you will, to be able to draw from, depending on how you play your cards, as well as, the amount from like your day job or, whatever.
Yeah. Owning asset opens you up to a lot of other ways of financing, things that you don't usually have when you're just starting out, right? When you're just starting out, it's the money in your pocket and it's the income from your, W-2 job or whatever.
Yeah, I totally agree.
W-2s.
Ooh, so what is the most important lesson that you've learned over your career? That could be, it's like super open-ended. Like it could be like from, buying your first house or like, like life in general. Like it's interesting because like we're pretty much, in a very similar position of like just beginning and like I like to ask anyway.
I think mine would be you kind of just have to take the punches that life throws at you.
Yeah.
And get through them as best you can. And like you can't just give up on something just because it's difficult.
Yeah, something in the same vein, right? You cannot plan for everything. You can have an idea of how it's going to pan out.
You can have a hope.
You can plan for the best case. You can plan for the worst case, and hopefully you land somewhere in the middle because you can't really plan for how these things are going to pan out. And like Cassidy said, you just got to roll with the punches as it happens, and each problem, deal with it one at a time. Make it through to the other side.
Embrace discomfort.
Discomfort. That's it. My parents have been saying that frequently to us in the last few days. Embracing this. Actually, it's a really good point.
Yeah,
too.
One of the best pieces of advice my dad has ever given me is you don't get anywhere in life without making yourself uncomfortable with something for a while.
I mean, we were uncomfortable as heck. Well, yeah. I mean, Cassidy was telling you earlier she wasn't on board with the idea of buying a multifamily,
Yeah. And even when we first met you, I still was not completely on board with buying.
If anything, it's more scary because like now things are actually happening. Like this is real,
Very overwhelming. Yeah. I had my last day of work on Friday and I was talking to my boss and she was like, you really have every major life stressor happening right now all at once. Like you're starting grad school, you're changing jobs, you're moving, like everything all at once. And I was like, yeah.
Embrace discomfort.
Roll with the punches.
We really embrace that discomfort. Yeah. Well, these things don't happen if you're comfortable. Yeah.
Exactly.
The best way to progress forward.
Yes.
I don't know.
It's to what?
Be uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, I guess so. Yeah. I mean, if we wanted safety and security, we'd still be renting. Because buying a property can seem very, very scary. And like my dad would tell me about every single thing that could go wrong under the sun when you purchase a property, but you set out with the goal in mind, you kind of just, you take all the problems and you go, well, let me just stick that all into my worst case and we'll see what we can figure out.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely huge. And like something I've been pretty fascinated with, in particular, relatively recently, is like something that like people don't talk about often is kind of like the mental like aspect, I guess, especially of like real estate in general, of like things not going 100% to plan all the time. And, having those events that come up and like just having to get through it and like just trying to stay like level headed. Cause like you said, the both of you guys, of like just like having that vision and shooting towards it. And sorry. Yeah, like just having that vision and shooting towards it and just kind of like rolling with the punches, as you continue, because like it's hard to see, the light at the end of the tunnel sometimes. And like those self-limiting beliefs start to come in and it's like, oh, like, is this like a sign that it's not meant to be? And like, it's, you just have to, I totally agree, guys. I think that's a really big one, is to literally just like keep fighting. Like, because if it was easy, like everybody would have did it.
Exactly.
And, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because the goal at the end of the day is financial independence, right? It's safety, fire, I guess. Yeah. It's financial security, with your own funds. It's knowing that you can live the life that you want to live without being dependent on anything outside of what you personally have.
It's huge. It really is.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't get that opportunity. So we are, we're very happy that we got to have this opportunity, right? We're happy that we, figured out the right places to learn all this information, talk to the right people, right? Found the right property.
And it's never luck. Like I don't like the people that think it's all just luck.
Yeah.
Us,
you're right.
You too, Kyle, you've probably experienced this, being young and buying your first property. Everybody's like, oh, it's all luck, haha. And you're like, no, we worked really hard to get in here and took a lot of work.
Yeah.
I agree. I forget. Oh, sorry, Chris, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, a lot of people that say that it's all luck are a lot of the people who will give up very quickly at the first roadblock. They won't roll with the punches. They'll get the first punch and they'll fall over and they'll go, I'm going back to where I came from.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And like, what was it? I forget where I was going with that. But yeah, I totally just forgot where I was going with that.
It's all right, buddy. Take your time.
It's the SpongeBob.
I had to throw a SpongeBob.
We had to throw at least one SpongeBob reference in there.
It's not me and Kyle seeing each other if we don't reference SpongeBob at least once.
Yes. And Chris did a little bit aggravated.
Come on,
why
guys.
can't you two ever be serious? Ah!
We're on a podcast.
Like I feel like one thing too is like being really careful like who you get your advice from, because some people that, like you were just talking about, Chris, might be, it might not necessarily be like to tear you down in a way, from the like the bigger things that you're trying to do. Like I think it's in most cases probably more of just like a fearing for like the well-being of the person, like trying to do that thing, like especially if they're like somebody super close. And like, because I mean, like you guys were saying it earlier, like not everybody is able to take these kind of opportunities, and like it's pretty unfortunate that more people don't know about this kind of stuff. And I feel like it's something that's really important to at least be able to like show the kind of things that are possible to a lot more people, especially with Pepper, and to be able to like get in with a lower barrier of entry, with like a 3% down loan, a 5% down loan. Like most people, including myself, before starting to get into real estate, figured it was like, 20% down, like you'll be saving up for 20 years. And like, because that's the norm, and like,
it's really, nobody really talks about the 3% and 5% down options.
Exactly. Or even
Like
FHA, like 3.5%. Like there's a couple different options out there, and like you might qualify for a couple of them. And like it's just like you almost have to like stumble across it by accident. And like most people do. Like it's not common knowledge, and it's kind of messed up,
Yeah. They should really teach stuff in high school.
Yeah. I mean, like that's the thing, like like you guys are living proof of, being like that this stuff works. You know what I mean? Like you were both in college and like, moved like a state over, bought a multifamily at, under 25 years old. Like this is real stuff, guys. And like, like anybody can do it. You know what I mean? You just kind of have to put your mind to it and roll in with the punches, as as Cassidy would say. And
Cassidy rolling with the punches, Schultz.
Yes, correct.
It's your new nickname.
Okay, that's a really long nickname, but
yeah, well, and make a placard for it and everything.
It's gonna be a very long placard. It's gonna be like this big.
My next degree that I'll get, I'll put that on my diploma. It's not Elizabeth anymore. It's rolling with the punches.
This master's of science is given to Cassidy rolling with the punches.
With the quotation marks.
It's just gonna be pictures of Chris's hands instead of quotes.
It's good.
So how do you guys define wealth? I know we kind of talked about it quite a bit, but yeah,
I think being able to do what you want when you want without being tied down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably it. I think also having wealth is I said this earlier and it seemed a little cringy, but I'll say it now anyway. Having wealth is not just financial, right? Having the financial capability isn't worthwhile unless you have a lot of friends and family and people around you that you like, trust, enjoy spending time with, and like doing activities with, right? A truly wealthy person has both financial stability and safety and lots of great people to surround themselves with.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely huge, because like especially to be able to achieve financial freedom, like you're gonna have to find some sort of balance between grinding out and like doing whatever you have to do to get that next property or to start that business or whatever it is. But on the flip side, once you get to that point, like that's fantastic. But like if you are like even like a little bit imbalanced, then some of those relationships that you might have with like friends, family, and like the people who you want to be enjoying that with, might not be there anymore. If you just focus on like 100% on one thing and not really like find that balance. And like I feel like that's something that's kind of tough to do, because like you want what you want so bad, and like you might know how to get there and like have the vision, and like you just want to do like just do it all. But you still have to be able to maintain those relationships with friends and family, and be able to kind of divvy your time up. And it's something that's kind of hard to figure out. I'm definitely still in the process of figuring it out.
There's a lot of people out there that will work their butts off to get to that financial independence number and be able to go, I'm finally financially independent, I'm free. And then they'll look around and they'll realize that, right, they've been grinding for so long, trying to search for properties, saving money by turning down every social opportunity and that sort of thing, that they just don't have that many people around them. It's not worth sacrificing all of that to make it to the financial finish line if you don't have the rest of it straightened out with you.
Yeah. That's huge. It really is.
It was a good point. Cool.
Yes. Good point, sweetheart.
Thanks.
Lots of good advice. Great advice. So speaking of advice, segue, what is your best piece of advice to new investors that want to start and manage their rental portfolio? Or even just to start in general?
Punches.
What was that, Cassidy?
Sorry, I said roll with the punches.
No, it's true though.
Coming back to that again.
It's a really really tough thing to get into, and it's extremely scary the closer you get.
Yeah. I'll just say start talking to people.
Yeah.
I met, a guy in Albany through Biggerpockets. I went to a meetup there. I started talking to a lot of people there, got an idea of what their rental property situation was. Me and that friend, we're still friends to this day. He's helping get some of my friends into rental properties. We were looking at a large multifamily together. Of course, through Biggerpockets, I met Kyle. Made this first house hack possible, and just meeting people and talking to people that have had these experiences makes it so much more real and so much more feasible in your head.
Yeah.
That's one of the most important things that you can do.
You can't go at it alone.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yes. Yeah.
Definitely not. That's extremely valuable, like on so many levels. Like even like, when you have problems that come up, like, to be able to go to those people and like, tell them what's going on. Cause like you might be like totally freaking out about it. And then, you go to somebody else in your network or like, another investor you met in the area or something. And, you tell him or her about it and they're like, dude, like that's nothing. Like you literally just do like this and this and you'll be all set.
Yeah.
And like it's something like as simple as that, and like the more connections you have, like the more power, that you're able to leverage, like to get to that next step. Or even like, I mean, like when you get going, or like when you first get going, the things that like absolutely scare the crap out of you, like that you want to, accomplish, even like getting pre-approved, like something like that, might be extremely scary. But like if you go to, somebody else, that's done it like a million times, you'll be like, oh, dude, like just have a conversation with them, like see what's going on, like see if there's anything you can do, in the meantime to be able to get a higher pre-approval. Like just sit down and have a conversation. Like you're not, they're not going to like come after you like with their claws up and be like, rawr, and it's like it's almost like it's not as scary as you make it most of the time, but you don't know that until you actually have done it, and like, yeah, like even like in terms of mindset too, like you might only think like, oh, like I'll get a pre-approval, but like maybe it'll only be for like, 200 or 300,000 or something like that. And then having a conversation with one person all of a sudden turns your mind into, oh, well, if you get a 2, 3 or 4 unit property, now you can get up to 500,000. Whoa. Off of like a 5-minute conversation, you know what I mean? Like Biggerpockets, for example, like the amount of people that are on there that just like really want to help you like get going and see you succeed. And like, if you show that you're super driven, like the sky's the limit, and like, I can't tell you like how many times, even like, picking up like one sentence from talking to like one person has like totally, absolutely changed everything. Cause like, that's all it takes. You know what I mean? Like is one person that like might tell you one thing that, somebody taught them a long time ago. And, to them, it's just second nature. Telling you for the first time. And like, it might totally, just blow your socks off. Cause like, you've never, came across this yet. And like, that was something that, yeah, it happened to me personally quite a few times, actually. Like there was one, shout out to Nate Swift.
Nate Swift.
No,
I don't know him, but he sounds cool if Kyle likes him.
Well,
hey,
he was
let's be friends.
He's
Sorry,
an absolutely awesome guy, and he was one of the ones who, I'll use him as an example. I'll have to talk to him later on about it. But so I remember, he was one of like the first investors that I started talking to. And I found him, from Instagram, like he was just, somebody doing his thing. And eventually it led to like, just shooting the breeze back and forth about real estate. And then, we kind of developed like a friendship and stuff like that. And I was telling him, because this was a couple of years ago, and like I just started my day job and I was only there for, it was going to be a year, like the next month. And, in my head, the only thing that I thought, that would make you eligible for a pre-approval is to have 2 years of consistent income, because that's what you see, a lot of the times going for, regular loans. And I was telling him, I'm like, oh man, like I got to wait like a whole nother year to be able to get pre-approved, until I have 2 years in my day job. And he's like, dude, you're ready. I'm like, Nate, what are you talking about, man? He's like, Kyle, like you're literally ready, like right now. I'm like, what? I'm not really understanding. Like, what do you mean? He's like, some lenders are able to take, if you went to college, they're able to sometimes take like a year or, 2 years of, being in college. And if you had like, a full-time job, like a year after that, and it'll probably depend lender to lender. I would recommend, talking to a lender about it.
We are not loan officers.
But, my point being, is basically like I went to a community college after high school for a year and like didn't end up liking it, jumped back into, the trade that I'm in, worked there for a year. And he was telling me to talk to a loan officer, because little did I know that loan officer was able to get me pre-approved in like the next week, because he was able to take the year of, community college that I was there full time, as well as the 1 year that I was at my day job. And that literally happened off of like, a single sentence from an Instagram conversation. And like, it saved me like a whole year worth of time. Like, it's stuff like that. Like, you never know. Like Chris said, like the value of just talking to people is crazy. Like it's literally life-changing.
That's a funny example that you bring up too, because you probably remember this. I didn't even know that the typical thing for mortgages was people thinking like you need 2 years of job experience or whatever. I went into it, blind as a bat. I was like, I'm just gonna get a mortgage. This will be fine.
It'll be all right.
I'll give a mortgage to anyone these days. I had graduated with my bachelor's degree in May. Up until that point, I had really only been working co-ops and like student jobs and that sort of thing. And I had a full-time job that I started in May. Yeah. We had the pre-approval 2 months after that, I think 3 months after that, something like that, based off of, very, very few income statements, right? Definitely not even a full year worth of income statements, but I got pre-approved. Yeah. I got pre-approved for a much higher amount than I ever thought that I could personally manage. And it got us into this cool ass rental property.
Exactly. The power is absolutely crazy. And then like learning from, like if you learn from somebody else, which this was another one that happened, of learning that like your pre-approval might only go so high for, like a single family or a duplex. But if you ask for a pre-approval for 3 or 4 units, like it might be drastically different than, the pre-approval that you might have got the first time. So like pairing those two things, literally like 2 conversations, all of a sudden turned, thinking that I wasn't able to get pre-approved at all and I have to wait another 365 days, to being able to afford a 3 or 4 unit property and still be comfortable, after using leverage like the right way and not, biting off more than you could chew and potentially putting yourself in a dangerous position. And
right.
Like it all just happens from conversations, and you never know. And especially like, real estate investors in general, this industry that I've seen is like, I feel like because it's such a team-based sport that
it kind of is a sport. Yeah.
In a way.
All right, the Olympics of real estate.
We're all playing for the same goal, right?
Yeah, technically, yeah.
Everybody can get the goal and everybody can win is the only difference.
That's not a very fun sport.
No, it's
participation
not, really.
Awards for everyone. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Well, okay, you know what? I'll rephrase. There are winners and there are losers. The winners are the ones who stick through it all the way and make it. I'm not calling everybody else losers.
Roll with the punches.
Clear. You're not a loser if you don't invest in real estate. You're probably great.
We like you still, but we think you should buy a duplex.
Yes. But yeah, it's like, I feel like it's like, because it's so like, team based and like, just people working with people, like 99.999% of people, are happy to just like sit down and have like, a phone call with you or just connect, and like, because you never know who you're going to be working with.
Mm-hmm.
And like, what be it, other investors or loan officers or attorneys or inspectors, flippers, like, people in different segments of, or I guess like doing other things, I guess you could say, like people doing buy and hold, some people doing flips. Like everybody can help each other out in different ways. And even like as somebody just beginning, like not necessarily having a whole lot to bring to the table, like if you show that you're extremely driven and like you're willing to put the work in and everything, like most people want to have conversations with you.
Yeah.
And like if you just keep connecting with people, especially like local people too, like the amount of people like in your town that like you could totally like be friends with, like maybe even work for, and like like an internship kind of thing, like be learning a lot from them and helping them do some of the grunt work and stuff. Or even Chris, like you mentioned, going to just like real estate investor meetups and stuff. Literally everybody shooting the breeze. Like there's all kinds of people there, people just starting out looking for their first property, or people that are doing 100 unit deals. Like there's like the whole spectrum, and like everybody's shooting the breeze, like it's
I think one of the coolest things about real estate investing too is that you can get really creative, right? A good deal is a good deal. And even if you don't have the money for it, right, somebody does. If you can't afford a duplex at the moment, right, because like purchasing a $500,000 duplex, even with the lowest down payment option and yada yada, it still might require $30,000 of your own capital. And if you don't have that, it wouldn't be smart to buy a property. But you can partner with somebody on a bigger deal. You can find seller financing in some markets. You can still wholesale. You can maybe flip a property. I mean, you can do a heck of a lot of things, especially if you talk to the people who've had experience or partner with people who have money, and you can handle a lot of the stuff on the deal. You can get your what's the word called? Get your foot in.
Get your foot in the door?
Yeah, you can get your foot in the door. Really, not easily, but you can get your foot in the door, and you can start making these moves to make your initial sum of money if you want to purchase your own multifamily and keep going from there, right? Lots of creative ways to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. And like that's one thing that's cool too, is like if you wanted to buy a duplex, like and say the amount that you got pre-approved for isn't exactly what you were looking for, or it might be a little bit out of range, then there's a couple different options you can make, like just trying to stay and buy and hold. Like you could either like look in different areas for a duplex, depending on like your day job or whatever your situation may be, and be able to maybe take a little bit more of a commute. Or you could swap to, even if you bought, like you mentioned earlier, Chris, like a single family or something, and like rent it out like each of the bedrooms. Like it's the same type of concept. Or renting out your closets to your friends and making that cash moolah. Like the creativity is insane. Like even if, and like the cool thing is you can mix strategies too. Like if you bought like a duplex or a 3-family, and you had a couple extra bedrooms, like you could rent those out by the room, and then like there's a lot of different ways and like pieces you can take in and take out to be able to make your numbers work. And like, yeah, I wish, a little bit or I wish, a lot more assets were, kind of this unique, in terms of creativity and like being able to try out different pieces, take things in, take things out, and
yeah,
real estate's one of a kind.
It also means you can have multiple kinds of exit strategies and that kind of thing too, right? Like this property, for example, worst came to worst, market goes terrible or the rents are, falling or something. We could always split it into condos, right? And sell one part of the place and still own the other part, right? That was one of the ideas that was floated to us when we bought the place.
By the listing agent.
By the listing agent.
By the way.
Shout out to Anthony.
Shout out to Anthony at Coldwell Banker.
I think it was Barrett Sotheby's, I believe.
Barrett Sotheby's.
Shout out to Anthony.
Coldwell Banker slander. I'm sorry.
Now you gotta have two pens. The
Wells Fargo and the Coldwell Banker pen.
That's right.
I'm really batting zero today.
But yeah, it's really like no other, and just being able to kind of go out and meet the right people and formulate those relationships and keep rolling with the punches. And you'll be well on your way. So, question for you guys, and we talked about it a little bit, but I'll ask it again. The question is, do you read? And what is your favorite business, investing, or real estate book that you would recommend to anyone? Now, this could be like a podcast, an audio book, like YouTube, anything.
So I do not read real estate books because I'm too busy reading the Bridgerton books. No, not actually. I did actually read them and they were good, but anyway, I digress.
You keep talking about that
because that's like the only series that I've read in the last year.
That's fair.
Because my philosophy is like I read too much for school. I don't want to do it in my free time.
Yeah.
Anyway, I digress. I like watching I prefer YouTubers. I'm not really a podcast gal. I know I'm literally on a podcast right now. Like I'm not a big fan of podcasts, so I prefer YouTubers. I like Graham Stephan a lot.
Yeah.
I watch Selling Sunset. I mean,
that's kind of more a reality.
Yes, it is.
TV show.
It gives me my fill while also being real estate adjacent. Anyway, Graham Stephan, I like him a lot. He has a lot of
He's amazing.
Advice. Yeah.
That's fair.
Cool guy.
I liked Rich Dad Poor Dad a lot. I mean, that's kind of the quintessential one, so I'll come up with one more. The multifamily investing books that Biggerpockets came out with. I think Brandon Turner wrote one. I can't remember the name of the guy who wrote the other one. I mean, they're. I started reading. I'm about halfway through part one, I think, and I gave it to my parents because they wanted to learn more about real estate after this.
Nice.
Oh, we're gonna get them into it. But I mean, it's great. It's very information dense. They've got all sorts of different creative strategies, and they kind of outline everything you need to know about small multifamily investing. So, shout out to them. It's a good book.
Those books are super good. Highly recommend the Biggerpockets books, guys. They're absolutely amazing.
Yep, 100%.
I've heard good things about them.
I've got a few.
I understand that.
You can borrow them.
I'm really busy reading about worms.
A worm scientist.
I'm not a worm scientist yet.
You'll be a worm scientist.
Soon.
Very soon.
Yes.
You want worms?
I got some worms.
She got worms.
Not in my stomach.
But yeah, thank you so much for coming on here, guys. That was absolutely amazing. So where on like social media and stuff can you guys be found?
I'm on Facebook. That's it. I just made a Twitter actually. It's at Schultz Cassidy, my name backwards. I haven't tweeted, but come follow me, I guess. Maybe I'll tweet something fun. Yeah. I don't have a lot of social media, so that's where you can find me.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm at Chris Vanderloo on most things. Chris_Vanderloo on Twitter. I think Chris Vanderloo on Instagram. And my website, chrisvanderloo.com.
He has a
He has a domain. Guys, go check out the
I do have a domain. Yeah. So, look at me in awe, please.
He updates the website once a year.
I paid $8.50 a year for a domain.
Make it worth it.
Yes.
Make it worth it. Visit it. Thank you.
But yeah, thank you so much, guys, for coming on. All right, guys, that concludes our Creating Wealth podcast episode for today. I want to thank every single person that has listened this far. It really means a lot to know that people can learn from me and with me as we build wealth together. Hopefully you can take home at least one thing from this podcast that will improve your life just a little bit. If you could, please check me out on social. That's at Kyle Curtin Real Estate on Instagram, Facebook, and I'm on Biggerpockets. Until next time, let's build together.